My sincerest apologies, everyone. I saw at the last minute that the latency was set to normal again, so my responses will not seem as quick as it was with One Piece. But don't worry, this will be fixed in the next session. So I forgot about it. But so it was my mistake. Giuseppe, welcome back. Halster, welcome back. Time to get started with Sakamoto Days, and this isn't going on break either. Let's begin. Yo, peoples! Qushu92 here. Welcome back to Sakamoto Days. Last we tuned into it, we went from the fight of Kipe and Sheena coming to an absolute close now because Kipe says like, yeah, I've been defeated. They spared our lives, which means it's an absolute defeat. And now he trying to chill, saying like, I want to get some food from the food court now. Then we cut away from that to Tanabata versus Shin. And now we get to focus on the second to last major fight that has to do with Sakamoto Days. Once Tanabata has been dealt with, every member of the order, not counting Shishiba and Osaragi because they're pretty much considered no longer part of the order anymore, but with Tanabata out of the way, the only adversary we would need to concern ourselves with would actually be Uzuki, and Sakamoto is dealing with him. So let's see what happens in days 260. And it's literally just a musical note. It's not even a title. It's just a musical note. And we have the news popping up for people because also there's a blackout because of what Gozu did when he was fighting Shishiba. But we have a news reporter and she's saying, "This just in. Before sunrise this morning, widespread clashes broke out between new JAA operatives and anti-new JAA insurgents. The violence erupted simultaneously at multiple locations and currently shows no sign of abating. Hundreds dead or injured are expected from these strings of incidents. And people are just listening to this news on their phone because they can't see it on the Jumbotron simply because all the lights are off. War in the streets? Is this really happening in Japan? And then we immediately cut to Shin versus Tanabata. Someone's fighting on top of that building! Oh. And then we have Shin looking at Tanabata as they're preparing to fight. One of Shin's abilities is to rewrite thoughts. And he just starts throwing hands with Tanabata over and over again. By using it on his own brain, he can even overwrite deeply entrenched beliefs. In other words, he can disable the brain's limiters, allowing his body to exceed its physical limitations. And Tanabata is just left, basically going a little bit on the defensive by dodging away from him constantly. And Shin sees this and goes, "Tch." And when Tanabata goes to strum his guitar, Shin proceeds to kick directly on the face of his guitar. That's your weapon, huh? Before he can play that thing, I'll cut the strings. And Shin goes to cut the strings and swipes at it. And what he draws back is a broken, scratched knife. His Tanabata's strings on his guitar are strong enough to break knives. Instead of you cutting the strings of the guitar cuts your knife. You can't play my axe with a soft pick like that. It's custom made. And it's got a whole different kind of resonance. And he strums and goes, G9. G sharp 9. And then he strums it. And then there's such a loud explosion from him strumming that everyone just covers their ears and goes, ah, so loud! And then Shin just falls from the building and hits a car. Just hits a car that's passing by, and he just falls and just hits it. But he's fine. And then Tanabata lands on the ground, and people are going, Are they shooting a music video? And he realizes that they're civilians, and he goes, Everyone, cover your ears! E9. And then he strums again and sends a shockwave so powerful, it launches a car, it launches multiple vehicles away from him. It's like Neo bursting out of the Smiths of The Matrix Reloaded. It just blows everyone back. And everyone hit by it gets hit so hard that their nose starts bleeding and it busts their eardrums. Blood shoots out of their ears. Ow!
Darn it! Even with my ESP, I can't escape his sounds.
And Tanabata is just casually strumming.
When I read his mind, all I get are dumb lyrics. How?
And Shin is looking around to all the civilians who got swept up in this attack. It hurts. Help! Crap, I might be in a slump. Even if I change keys and amp up the vibe, the sound just gets harsher. It just sounds derivative. Rats, I have no talent. I know. I'll write a song about this feeling. Thank you for listening to my new song, Talent Mute.
Oh no, if he plays a new song in the middle of the city like this.
And then the screen. Then the Jumbotron turns on to show Sakamoto fighting Uzuki.
Mr. Sakamoto!
And it shows that Sakamoto we're still in the amusement park. And Sakamoto just casually punches Uzuki straight into a Ferris wheel. What is it called? Not a basket. Ferris wheel seat. And knocks the whole thing off. And then Sakamoto just gets in front of Uzuki again, and they both just start trading hands. So, that dude's still alive. And then Tanabata looks over at Shin, and Shin punches his guitar. Just doesn't have that ring. Killing and playing music are similar. The same old trite garbage won't cut it. And then he goes to prepare to strum his guitar, but realizes that his guitar is... my tuning's off. In that split second.
Trite garbage? Whatever! What really matters,
and Shin picks up like a road sign,
is the feeling behind it!
And he manages to hit Tanabata and sends him flying onto the path of a subway train. But on some train tracks, but a subway is coming straight towards him.
Mr. Sakamoto's battling too, so I can't lose now.
Your voice hurts my ears.
Look out! Train!
And then Tanabata takes out a literal foot pedal board. You know, the kind that many guitar users have. Like, my pastor uses it, and our other guitarist, he uses it as well. And he just sets it down on the tracks as this subway train is literally speeding towards him. And then, before he's hit by the train, Tanabata strums his guitar, and using the same note that describes this chapter, strums it once, and it causes such a monumentally powerful shockwave, it stops the train, takes it up off of the tracks, and crushes it backwards. The tracks are literally splintered and shattered. The bridge that he's on is splintered, broken apart, and shattered. And Shin can only look in amazement as Tanabata's hat falls off as he just clicks and prepares to continue going, prepare to get blasted by the real thing. So all that we've seen Tanabata do with just his guitar, now he's about to use an amplifier. So those people in the train are dead, right? We can agree on that. If there was someone in the front of that subway car, I'm pretty sure you ain't gonna be hearing from them again anytime soon, because that whole front half of the subway car is smashed. The train literally compressed in on itself. So if there was a multitude of people inside of that first car, if it wasn't just the conductor in there by himself, if there was a bunch of people in that car, I'm pretty sure half of them are dead right now. Because that is one crazy shockwave for. Because the thing is, we saw the shock. Here's the thing: we saw the shockwave literally like a couple of pages beforehand, and we saw the effect it has on people. Sends people flying backwards, can uproot cars and toss motorcycles around, and even lift people off the ground and blast them backwards, cause nosebleeds and eardrums to just be burst. Here, he amplifies this, and it can make a subway train stop in its tracks. He's literally derailing the subway car, the entire subway itself, and also blowing apart everything else that's on this bridge. The stone, the wood, the metal, none of it matters. He strums once, and then it causes a shockwave that is so solid that not even a subway could penetrate it. And now he's saying, like, now I'm about to play for real. After everything we've seen Shin be unable to defend against. Because you really can't defend against sound unless you're deaf. But now he's about to use an amplifier that's about to take his strumming that is capable of blowing people back, and that has now been used to fully stop a subway car. Now we're about to see this. Now we're about to see him play for real. And mind you, when he strummed that G sharp 9, or that G9, when he strummed that G9, it was already loud enough as it was that people had to cover their ears. He wasn't even playing seriously then. Now he has an amplifier. And the people who already had their eardrums burst because of how close he was when he strummed on the streets, now we got to concern ourselves with widespread audio destruction because of him using an amplifier now. Another thing to note is how we get like 2 whole pages dedicated to Sakamoto just still continuing to fight Uzuki, and Uzuki is just getting tossed around here. Mind you, Uzuki also doesn't have a sword in hand, fully cementing the fact that the Sakamoto personality is gone and all Uzuki can really use is just hand-to-hand combat now, because that copied personality can't use a sword anymore, because that copied personality is gone. Roll, Ravi, what's going on? Also cool to see Tanabata has actual sound-based attacks. If he didn't, as a musician-based fighter, not gonna lie, I'd be disappointed. As a musician myself, I main the trumpet. I know how to play keys, I know how to play saxophone, but I mainly play trumpet. As a music lover and a musician, if Tanabata's attacks did not revolve around sound-based attacks and just fully encapsulate him being a musical assassin, I would have been incredibly disappointed. Because there's a lot you can do with sound. From Scratch Menapoo in One Piece to Tanabata here. The power of sound is absolutely monumental. Ravi, thank you for reminding me that I need to create some more emojis. Granted, I need to get some more members, but at the same time, I'll create some more emojis for when that eventually happens. Unless maybe Shin can use his psychic abilities to shut off his hearing, like how he can remove his physical limiters. That's an idea to put in mind. If he can tell his body to not receive sound, like make it so that his brain does not send signals to the ears to make them pick up sounds, then that could be a way he could defend himself. That could be a way. But that remains to be seen. But really, this was just, I want to say this was a chapter just dedicated to Shin fighting Tanabata, and at the end of it all, sorry, G number 9 or G sharp 9 is what Tanabata used on top of the roof, and people are already saying it was loud. E9 is the attack he used, the musical attack he used, and it blasts people back, and people who are at point blank range pretty much had their earbuds burst. And now we have another chord, mind you, we don't get the actual note itself, and is capable of flattening an entire subway car, and also destroy the area around him in clean sound resonance. So that's interesting to me. And that's the end of the chapter, and I can't wait to see the next one. So my thing is here, we still have Sakamoto, just contending with Uzuki here. We still have him contending with Uzuki. And Sakamoto doesn't, the thing is, Sakamoto doesn't look like he suffered any real damage with his fight. He's just throwing hands with Uzuki. And all Uzuki can do is just kind of keep up. But Sakamoto doesn't look like he's dismayed or tired at all. Sakamoto is literally going in. He's the one who's launching Uzuki all over the place. Meanwhile, you get civilians who are just casually walking, and some of them can see all this happening. Really hope there's no one nearby the car from the Ferris wheel that lands on them, because, civilians in this story are just so nonchalant about a whole bunch that happens in the Sakamoto Days world. Oh, there's assassins going on? There's assassinating going on? There's destruction going on? Just another day. It's like everyone is just chill with it. It's like seeing civilians from the John Wick series. This is how these civilians react. But the fact that we decided to cut back to Sakamoto versus Uzuki just for us to be reminded that that's still a fight taking place, only for us to focus back here on Shin. Now the question is, what is Shin going to do against an individual who has now amplified the amount of sound he's capable of outputting with his guitar? Because a knife won't work, because the strings of his guitar are mad durable. The knife Shin was using was cut apart and cracked in multiple places. So using a knife is not going to cut the strings. They're way stronger than that, which begs the question of what type of pick Tanabata is using, if not even metal can even scratch the strings themselves. So it leaves a lot of questions. But overall, this makes me hopeful for what we are going to see in the next chapter. CDs, what's going on? You're coming in on the tail end of me reacting to Sakamoto Days. Not going to be as long as One Piece, because I got to get some water, eat some food, and then react to the newest episode of One Piece and get that out to you guys at a decent time, in time for me to record even more Lego Batman. But overall, I really didn't like this chapter, because I'm looking forward to the next one to see what Shin is going to do so he can bring down Tanabata. Now the question is, since we have reached chapter 260, how much longer do we have to spend on the Tanabata fight? How much longer do we have to spend on the Tanabata fight before we fully focus on Sakamoto Days? Not Sakamoto Days, but fully focus on Sakamoto versus Uzuki. How long is this fight between... Because this fight with Tanabata can't be too long. I honestly feel like this fight should be significantly shorter than the fight of Shishiba versus Gozu. And I include the chapters where Gozu was fighting Osaragi and everybody. Gozu was fighting Osaragi and Shishiba. I feel like the amount of time we spend with this particular fight and not splitting it up between two people, it should be, I feel like we could just see maybe 3 chapters of this fight. And I'm saying at most. I feel like at most, this fight probably will not go past 4 chapters. Because I don't see it doing that. Because we don't have anything else we need to cut back to. We don't need to cut back to the JCC. That's been resolved. We don't need to cut back to anyone else. So the question is, how long is this fight going to last, chapter-wise? But that's my only thing. Sakamoto anime question. I do think we get 2 or 3 more chapters of this fight. Yeah. When will they show Sakamoto and them versus Takamura? It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while before we get to the Sakamoto and everybody versus Old Man Takamura in the museum. It is definitely going to be a significant amount of time. Matter of fact, I can pull that up because I can look. I'm so happy I can look at web pages and nothing slows down. Assassin Exhibition of the Century arc. Now, the previous arc is the Bangkok arc, and this is when we get introduced to members of Alkamar, such as Kumanomi and everyone. But also, remember that Season 2, well, not Season 2, but Part 3 is going to be dealing with the infiltration. Going to be dealing with the infiltration of the JCC. So we have 3 arcs. We have 3 arcs to go through first. So part 3 is going to be the JCC infiltration arc. Then we have to do with the Taro Sakamoto's past. that deals with his past, you know, like growing up with Rion and Nagumo and Uzuki when they were younger. Then we have the Bangkok arc, which introduces the members of Alkamar and members of Uzuki's group. And then after that is the Assassin Exhibition of the Century arc. So it's going to be a minute. We still got 3 other arcs to deal with, including the one that part 2 left out on. So it's going to be a while. Yeah, it's going to be a while before we get there. I'm waiting on that fight in the anime, so I haven't watched Sakamoto since he fight that bomb knuckle guy. Oh, you mean hard boiled. You mean hard boiled. Gotcha. If that's your reasoning, you're going to be waiting a minute because we got 3 whole arcs to go through. But if that's what you want to do, by all means, you're going to be waiting a while though. You'll be sorry. I'm just saying. So next year, I assume? You think it's going to happen next year when we get that next arc? No. It is not going to be just next year when they bring us the next thing for Sakamoto Days. And I'm not saying it's going to have to, and I'm not saying it's going to happen sooner, but you got to remember, they're not. I'm pretty sure they're probably not going to crank out multiple arcs within one singular year at the same time. So I'm not saying I can't tell you how long these arcs are actually going to be, but you're gonna be waiting. That's all I can say. I sure will. You'll be on that cold hill alone. Yes, you will, by yourself. I hope you brought blankets and some warm socks, some wool socks, because you're gonna be on that hill alone by yourself. But I digress. I'm sorry. I'm messing around now. But everyone, this was a good chapter, and I'm looking forward to the next one for Sakamoto Days. Only time will tell to see how long this fight between Tanabata and Shin is going to be, but I feel that it will not be as long as a fight between Shishiba and Gozu, or Osaragi versus the weird old lady with the baby. I feel like it's not going to be that long. There's only so much that there's only so much we can gain from Tanabata as an individual before it's like, we don't need it to be too long, because you do not want these fights to drag out for too long. You do not want it to drag out too long, because otherwise it's going to be like, okay, this fight has been going on way too long. Shin, bring it home so we can cut back to Sakamoto. So you do not want these fights to last too long, especially these final fights. They don't need to be long. We'll have to see. Don't forget, it's seasonal. Yeah, it's seasonal. So you're going to be waiting a minute. But yeah, good chapter. Looking forward to the next one because we are not on break. But that's all I got for you, ladies and gentlemen. With that being said, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if what I did here today was worthy of your time, even check out my membership and Patreon, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. And because I know you're coming back anyway. Have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples!